God bless you all and welcome to our broadcast here tonight. We're always elated that God has given us the grace, the blessings to come and share. And tonight is no different. We are excited about this reset opportunity that we are having to share some very powerful information. So I want to say welcome to all of our viewers tonight. And we are favored to have Dr. Nita Davis, Mr. Mitchell Davis Jr. and Mr. Carlton Stevens. And we are in various places, Florida, Minnesota, and the Virgin Islands. So we are really in 3 different time zones, but it is so great that technology allows all of us to come together. And tonight, we want to share some vital information with you concerning education and also employment and entrepreneurship. It is vitally important that we make the next step into making sure that our economic standards are above par. And so I want to get right into it. And I want to ask our awesome panel. They are highly educated, highly motivated, and consummate professionals. And we are so dedicated. They are so dedicated to their task that they tonight will share with us how we can get breakthroughs in these various areas. So if you are struggling in your employment, struggling to get employment or to maintain employment, or you are not in the loop for a expansion in employment as a promotion, or you are struggling in the educational arena, or you're the guardian of a young person, potentially 14 to 21 years old, that's struggling in the way of education, or if you are a business owner and finding your way through this pandemic has been very, very difficult. Tonight, I want you to sit back in your tent doors and I want you to listen, because the kingdom of God really needs all of this and the more. And so at this time, I'm going to ask our panel, and I'm going to start with Dr. Defoe, and then I'm going to go to Mr. Mitchell Davis Jr., and then to Carlton Stevens. I'm going to ask each one of them a particular question. And Dr. D, when we ask people to think about reset, because that's what it's all about. It's time for us to reset our lives and take it to an extremely higher level. And so when we ask people to think about reset, what comes to mind, and why is the mindset so important? Dr. D, will you share with us?
Well, good evening, Bishop, to you and all that are with us this evening. And thank you for the honor to be a part of this important conversation. When I hear the words reset, I'm thinking of individuals, families, business people, educators, really looking at the client and the conditions that we're facing, Bishop, right now. We are all hoping, as we are hopeful with this transition, and we've been hearing for months the phrase "build back better." And in light of the COVID-19, the transitions that we are seeing that have occurred across all sectors, reset really means looking at the conditions, looking at the circumstances, and thinking about what do I need to do personally so that I'm able to qualify for opportunities, to access opportunities. Because too often, Bishop, we can see things have changed, things have shifted, and instead of being proactive about responding to those changes that we see in the environment, we kind of wait until the change hits us in the head. And so reset, and our conversation we're having tonight, is really about what do people need to do? What kinds of educational opportunities do they need to access? What kind of business opportunities do they need to be looking for? Understanding what employers are trying to do in their workplaces with their business models. What changes do you need to make? There's nothing worse than waiting until you're out deep in the sea, I say, and you know you have a hole in your boat, and then you try to make the repair, when you could have made the repair when you were safe and then go out to sea. And that's the same thing we got to do in our careers, in our businesses. What changes are going around, recognize those changes, and then figure out what tools, what skills, what do I need to do so that I'm able not only to just survive in that, but be able to thrive in that environment. And that's what I think about when I hear the words reset.
Well, that's well said, Dr. D. Mr. Mitchell Davis Jr., same question. When we, again, ask people to think about reset, what comes to mind and why is this mindset so important?
When I hear the word reset, yesterday I was doing some work at home, and the power went out. And so I had to go downstairs in the basement, go to the electronic box and reset it so that the power would come back again. And, you know, when I hear the word reset, you know, first things that come to mind is you got to reset your alarm clock. If you have a broken bone, you got to reset it so it can heal. You got to fix it in a different way so that you can move forward. Thinking about that reset side, one of the key thoughts that comes to my mind is the secret of reset is to change and focus all of our energies, not on fighting the old, but building up on the new. COVID-19 has caused all of us to hit the reset button. And no matter if we're in education, if we're in business, if we're in religion, if we're in social work, we have to do things differently. And so that reset button, when we push it, that means we have to sit back, reevaluate, and then see how we're going to move forward and make some progress and still make a difference in the world that we live.
Well said, Mr. Davis. Now, Carlton, tell us again as well, you're all the way in the Virgin Islands, so tell us again, when we ask people to think about reset, what comes to mind and why is this mindset so important?
Okay. All right, can you hear me now? Yeah, reset. Not repeating everything that was said. Reset to me, when I think about reset, I think about your emotional intelligence. All the things that's been happening around COVID and that's happened before. Thinking about it in a more intelligent way, approaching your life in a much more intelligent fashion. When it comes to work and school, we just gotta do things differently, you know, much smarter, more efficient when I think about reset.
Thank you. So let me come to some of the dynamics that we want to cover very specifically. And at this time, I'm going to ask our distinguished guest, first of all, Mr. Carlton Stevens, to actually tell us a little bit about what he does and how does that impact his everyday life. But also, I want him to deal with the question in his work performance, what challenges face the world of education right now? And what opportunities can educators maximize as they strive to equip their students? So tell us exactly what you do, Mr. Stevens, and then deal with the twofold question. What challenges face the world of education right now, and what opportunities can educators maximize as they strive to equip their students?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, I live in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and I'm the director of an intervention program, education intervention program here in St. Thomas. I've been the director of this intervention program for about 18 years now. So that's my day job. That's what I do on a regular basis. I also am the founder of a company called the Mission Project here in St. Thomas for about 3 years now. And we work with men and boys who are incarcerated, young men who are adjudicated and trying to get back in society. And we also work with different agencies around the Virgin Islands trying to bridge the gap between disenfranchised, disconnected fathers who have to pay child support, or men who have committed domestic violence, and trying to reconnect them back to the community and to their families. So that's some of the things that I do here in St. Thomas. To answer your question, COVID has actually created a lot of things and caused a lot of questions for educators here. And I know in St. Thomas, and I'm pretty sure around the world, as you can see day to day in the news, schools are closing after reopening. It's caused a gigantic global crisis for education. As of March 28, 2020, the pandemic basically has affected over 1 million children nationwide. You know, and some of the things that we need to be worried about, and here we are concerned about it, is the loss of learning for children, the increase of dropout rates, and not so much people talk about it, but a lot of children, the only meals they get throughout the day is when they come to school. So you have to deal with a lot of children who are actually out there not being fed. We also know that a lot of places have unequal education systems, and it affects negatively on the disproportionate children or the less fortunate children in the community. So those are some of the challenges that educators are facing as it comes to cope with the result of COVID. I feel as a school leader, it is critical that we continuously try to raise aspirations of our students, encourage them to overcome the barriers that they face, and help them reach their full potential. And that can only be done if we try to help children get ready for the 21st century. You know, the 21st century education is about giving students what they need to succeed in the new world, helping them grow their confidence and practice those skills that you are imparting them. There's so much information readily available for students in the 21st century and for educators that there's no reason why students should be able to be ready for the world within the 21st century. I mean, education needs to be about empowering all students with transferable skills, and that will hold up to the rapid changing world. I mean, COVID has changed the world completely, you know? So we need to get students ready for those things.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Really appreciate that. Dr. D, with millions, literally millions of people unemployed, what must job seekers do to gain re-employment? And what are the employer's expectations? So what must the employee do, and what is the employer's expectation?
Bishop, and with those that have joined in with us this evening, there's two percentages that everybody needs to keep at the forefront of their minds each and every day, and that's 85% and 15%. And what it has been found is that 85% of job success comes from soft skills that they're often referred to, workplace behavior sometimes, or essential skills. And the other 15% actually comes from the technical, whatever the occupational sector that you're in, whether you are a plumber, a carpenter, whether you do IT, those are your technical skills or your hard skills. So what employers have come to recognize and acknowledge is that 85% of the success in their workplace comes from their talent, having good work attitudes, being able to work on with a team, problem solve. They're more and more looking for good customer service and entrepreneurial skills. Even they want that entrepreneurial mindset. And so for the job seeker, they have to think about what kind of industry recognized credentials or certifications are in demand and that I need. We are in a time where credentials and certifications, everybody from someone that is a high school student to someone that is in college, they need a certification or a credential. And too often when people hear post-secondary, they immediately think of a bachelor's degree. Well, it depends upon your career path. If, for a job seeker, if you're going to be a plumber, even some IT positions, you just need a certification or credential. So one message that all job seekers need to etch in their mind, beside that 85%, is they need some kind of industry recognized credential or certification. That's one thing. The job seeker also needs to go back to that 85% that I mentioned and know that they have got to work on their workplace behaviors. People don't get fired typically because of having poor technical skills for that industry. It's the workplace behaviors, not being able to function on the team, not being able to have a good attitude. I have a colleague that worked for an automotive industry there, and he was saying when the senior leaders would get together, the CEO of this automotive corporation, a global corporation, they were telling them hire people for attitudes. So when you think about it, that's really striking. They don't even care whether you know anything about fixing an automobile, because much of it is computer driven. So they feel they can teach you the technical part, but they can't teach you or have to have a good attitude. They can't teach you to problem solve. And so that 85% that I mentioned, that is key for job seekers. So they got to think about industry recognized credentials. They got to think about workplace behaviors, and they got to think about innovative thinking and entrepreneurial thinking. Every job seeker is an entrepreneur, even if they don't think in that mindset, because they're selling the employer their skills and their time. And they have to think in that context, because employers are not looking for people to just come and sit at the desk waiting for the next assignment or to be told not to waste time. Employers, especially after COVID, and this had already happened because we are in a global economy now, they need people to think. So they need people on their team. They need their talent if they see something not working well to let the employer know. They want thinkers. And for people to be able to reset and get re-employed, they have got to come back into the workplace with a different a mindset, Bishop, because unfortunately, as employers are looking at their businesses and looking at how COVID has impacted them, those people that are less productive and less skilled, they're going to have more and more difficulty finding opportunities for work. So that's what the job seeker needs to be focused on, because the employer is thinking about, how am I going to be competitive? What do I need to have my talent do so that I can be competitive? What kind of customer service are they giving? Because now more people have more and more options. And so the talent that an employer has can really make or break his business. And so for those folks who are not feeling that they got to get skilled, it's going to be really challenging for them if they don't look for those credentials, if they don't work on their workplace behaviors, if they don't see how they have to be value added for employers, because many employers have lost millions over these months. And so they're trying to rebound. And so those are the two sides of this coin that we're looking at, for what the job seeker needs to do to be ready and what the employer is looking for when they're looking for their talent or they're looking for new hires.
Well said, Dr. D. And want to just interject as we prepare to come to Mr. Davis Jr. Many times in our church systems, we often struggle with things beyond the four walls of the buildings or the churchy church things. But we also have come to recognize as church leaders that the church has a economic stream, and the failure of the economic stream to work on and in the church best behalf, we become stymied. We cannot do the work of the kingdom. And thus, this is very important. I'm challenging you as guardians, as parents, to make sure that we keep our students educationally on track. And even those that desire to go to skill-oriented type schools or technical schools or colleges, universities, it's very important that we understand how to have our education impact our career choices and our future. And definitely, how do we interact, as Dr. D so well stated, in our entrepreneurial self. We are having to sell ourselves, whether when we go to that interview, we have to sell ourselves to that employee. And what's really facing the Black and brown communities greater than anything is the gap of opportunities. We don't have as many opportunities oftentimes. And so there's an opportunity gap, or the gap of opportunities. It's like a gulf in many instances. So with that being said, I really need us to take a different mindset, a different approach to making sure that, especially when our students and your family members start moving towards that 14 on up age group, we have to make sure, as has been well stated, that our skills, our behavioral skill sets are in place. I know I've watched it over the years as I've gone into places like, and I don't want to call any particular store, but I've gone into places of business, and the customer service is just not good. People ignore you, won't say anything to you. I walked into a place where I'm getting ready to spend monies and potentially thousands of dollars, and walk into a place and no one speaks to you, but they want your business. It makes no sense. And what we need to make sure is we are well prepared. So there are solutions, and we'll talk about those. But at this time, Mr. Mitchell Davis is going to come and share the answers to the current pandemic. Mr. Davis, the current pandemic has forced solo entrepreneurs and businesses of all sizes to reevaluate their business models. What are enterprises facing, and what are solutions to these business concerns?
Bishop, you made a bridge when you talked about the church. That's all of us have that faith within us. And it used to be that all of us went to church. Now we see some go, some don't, or they may be the C&E Christians, Christmas and Easter that they go. But nevertheless, we know that workforce, as Dr. D has mentioned, is extremely important. And we can go at a few different angles. My dad was a cement mason, so he was in the trades. My uncles were electricians, and they were plumbers, and they were military, and they were also police and clergy. And so we had a whole blend. But what we saw was, they always told us this, my brothers and sisters, as we were growing up, go to school so you can think, but also make sure you have a trade so you can work with your hands. So if the economy goes bad when you're thinking, you have a trade to fall back on. And so you had alternatives, but we don't have that as much anymore. And that's what we need again. We need that coming back. Let me say this. Temp labor, temporary firms work, they hire IT workers, they hire hourly labor workers for manufacturers, retailers that you mentioned that have hardly any customer service skills anymore. And these temp workers were hired to handle spikes. So when there was a lot of workers, there was not as many temp workers who were hired. And so it would move and constrict depending upon what the needs were. That was before COVID-19 pandemic hit. But now the playbook has changed. And everything that we're doing, we're seeing, just like we're doing tonight, we're on the Zoom call. We might have been in the hall or in the church or in the building or a school talking and teaching, but now we're on the Zoom. And that's a great thing because we can reach more people than we were before. The other thing that has to happen, this remote working model is really taking an impact. And we as people, African descent, we must need to master these skills. Let me say this, in 1960s, Blacks, in the 1960s, we had 40% of businesses in our community. Today, we have less than 7% of businesses in our community. Look at that dichotomy. And so we're depending upon others to go to work. We go to work for somebody else. They only pay you enough to pay your bills and pay a little bit of debt, but you don't build any equity over time. And that's what's starting to change now. Let me give you a few statistics. The New York State Society of CPAs, they say that 39% of people work at large companies. And that's anywhere from 2,500 to over 10,000 people per company. 26% work at mid-sized companies, which is 100 to 2,400 people. And 34% work at small companies, which is 99 and less. So you can see there's a lot of opportunity employed by small companies. But what happens? I want to talk about, certainly we know that exists, but there's some skill sets that we need to learn. This is why entrepreneurship is so important, because we have to learn these skills if we work for somebody else or if we work for ourselves. And these require no zero technical talent. And people are probably going to laugh when they hear them, but we need to be on time, work ethic, effort, body language, energy, attitude, passion, being coachable, doing the extra stuff and being prepared. We don't need any technical skills to do that, but somehow we're finding that our workers don't even have these skills anymore. And so I want to say there's a great need for a workforce readiness system that uses, everyone loves videos, right? They grew up on the video games. That video and computer technologies that can teach us our skills and our abilities that's required in the work environment. Now, here's the linchpin. When we're 18 years old, when we go to school, let's say we go to college or a university, you can rack up $200,000 in student debt. And when you go to that admissions office, you just sign the paper and they smile and say, okay, go to school. When you get finished, you can hold $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in student debt. Now let that same student go and say, I'm going to get a business and I need a $20,000 business loan. No bank will touch us. They won't give us $5,000. They won't give us $10,000. They won't give us $20,000. Now, what's wrong with that picture? It's because the system is built for, especially our folk, Black African heritage, that we don't have ability to handle our future in our own hands. And that's what the difference is I see with having a business. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you start out cold. It means that you work for somebody else and build a business on the side. And then as it grows and grows, 2 to 5 years, then you can fire your boss and say, now I'm my own boss now. And so This is why I believe businesses are so important. Another statistic is in 2018, there was 129 million people who were employed full-time basis in the United States. In that same year, 59 million or 45% of the people are working their own business. But we're only 7% of those working their own business. Now I want to end with this. I'm in Minnesota, and I went to find out more about how I could start my own business. And one of the governors said we need to be more transparent in the contracts that we do and give out to others. And they put a database up called the Minnesota Interactive Database that you can see every company that got a contract in the state of Minnesota. And I went on there to see how many of the Black businesses that I could find. And of course, it was pretty minuscule. But the great news is it started invigorating and motivating us as African Americans here in the state to say, you know, we want to be part of this. And that's what has started mushrooming now. And I'm sure everywhere, as we start to talk about this more in our settings, in our families, at the dinner table, at church, on Zoom, at prayer meeting especially, we will start to see this really pick up and grow. COVID-19 only has caused us to hit the reset button so we can readjust, we can restart, we can refocus so that we can start to take more advantage of our future and make a difference for our families and ourselves.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Davis, and to Dr. D and to Mr. Stevens. This has been a great conversation, and I promised that I was not going to hold anybody too long. And so we're grateful that you've joined us, but the key to all of this is the most viable piece. It's education. The Bible says, my people are destroyed because we lack knowledge. And that's critical. That's critical. In fact, God says, I have a controversy with the inhabitants of the land. And one of those controversies is because we don't understand the truth of the knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge out there, but the truth of the knowledge. And I oftentimes make statements like this: truth can withstand all inspections. You can look at it upside down, left, right, north, south, east, west, truth. And that makes us free. It's the aletheia of the word. It makes us free. And so we must learn how to accept truth, because truth matters. We must learn how to accept the truth. And the truth is that many of our young Black, African descent people, brown people, but various, all ethnicities. I've been around the world, and many ethnicities. There's trouble everywhere. And so the bottom line is we're having a lot of challenges. And when our young folks are facing educational dilemmas, and we are not trying to put a plug in that and stop that, we're going to have problems. And so to exceed, to have success, to excel, I believe there are some solutions to this. And I just want to ask Dr. D to talk about what are some of, we have a product, an opportunity to share solutions for all of these critical areas of need. So Dr. D, without any further ado, we're going to ask you to just talk a little bit about how we can analyze, assess, and bring solutions to these three critical areas of education, of employment, and entrepreneurship. How can we help people find their niche, their pathway to greater levels of success? Dr. D.
Well, what I would say to that, Bishop, as a solution is what's often referred to as an evidence-based approach. And for folks that are with us tonight, whenever you hear something about an evidence-based approach, that means that it's been extensively tested. It means that every time it's been tested, it has gotten some results, notable results. And so what people must do as they are getting ready and they look at their education, they look at employment, they look at entrepreneurship, they need to go back to that 85-15% that I mentioned. If you realize that 85% of your success is tied to being able to get a job, being able to retain that job, to be able to progress on that job, how can I make sure that I'm ready? And so making sure that you're working on your workplace behaviors. And there's nothing worse than working on something in the dark. If you get in the car and just start driving, Bishop, and you don't have any direction in mind, you don't have your GPS in mind, you just wandering, you just driving in the dark. And you don't want to do that when it comes to your job readiness. So there's some tools out here that can help you understand, what are my strengths when it comes to my workplace behaviors? What do I need to work on so that I become more marketable, that I can retain my job and I can grow in my job? And those tools are out there and they are available. But as you said, people have to be open to knowledge and to use that, because that can equip them, and then they'll know what to work on to strengthen it. Because those same behaviors, they're critical for students as they are finishing, high school and moving on to, to college or to work. It's critical for young adults that are in college and looking to prepare, for work, because when employers, and if they're looking to them for internships, or they're, looking for skill building opportunities, those same behaviors, those same attributes for career readiness. Gone are the days where it used to be you could just finish high school or finish college and just get a job. It has become more intentional. It has become more competitive. And so people have got to get certifications and credentials, and that's where these evidence-based tools. And as Mr. Davis shared with us, all of those skills that he named that are so critical, those are workplace behaviors that, whether you are the job seeker or whether you're on the employment side, that employers are looking for that. They're looking for those kind of behaviors. And if you have your own business, you need to embody those, or the talent that the entrepreneur is looking to hire, he or she is looking to make sure that whoever they hire have those. So using those tools that help you know, what am I strong in? What do I need to work on, so that folks can become better equipped? Because that's what resetting is all about, Bishop. It's about seeing the environment that we're in and recognizing that we are more technologically driven, we're more globalized, and that the world of work has shifted. Because if we as humans are not getting ready, artificial intelligence is working and getting ready when we're sleeping. And so many jobs are being taken over by artificial intelligence. And so if we don't demonstrate our proficiency, our ability to be able to do many jobs and to work better, a lot of things will go to the way of artificial intelligence. So that's the solution. Finding out what tools are out there, finding how you can strengthen yourself, getting your credentials together so that you can demonstrate that you are value added, because that's what employers, entrepreneurs are looking. What value, as you as a talent, what can you add to my company? How can you help me achieve my bottom line? That's what's critical. And so job seekers have got to take it seriously, think about what they need to do to maximize their strengths and what they can do to improve themselves for those opportunities, because that is the way to reset as we look toward the end of 2020 and move on to 2021.
I'm going to run it back around the table, but let me just add this. I think what's also just as important to the process of life is our educational thrust, even in many instances as early as elementary school, because behavioral patterns that are to the student's disadvantage is stereotyping them. By the time they are third and fourth grade, they are stereotyped, they are put in this classification that they have no ability to learn or retain. And so I think that behavioral patterns need to be taught even at an earlier age. So this process, as much as we know our communities, many of our communities, as the economy before the pandemic, we were hearing great job reports, but in our communities, specifically in the communities that I live in and pastor in, the unemployment rate, especially for the Black male and the brown male, was always in double digits. And one of the challenges that we faced in and with that double-digit unemployment rate is because of behavioral patterns that were not dealt with at an earlier age. So I would dare to say that we need to embrace the work or the opportunities to help our children learn how to better behave in their earlier upbringing, in their adolescent ages, so they can get to the place where jobs are. We realize that there are some products, there are some programs that are made available to reentry, but how about saving our children from entering? Because one of the greatest challenges that we have in reentry is the inability to get back or to gain employment. So we need to start saying, as leaders in these particular areas, how do we rechannel, reset, and educate our children in behavioral patterns? I think it needs to start in the school, in the elementary school sector. And so these products that industrial psychologists are bringing about, which are, by the way, almost non-existent in 99% of our Black and brown communities. We don't even hear about some of the available products and tools. And it's amazing that even in our college systems, we are not analyzing or evaluating or sharing the analytical approach to our students that are entering college. It is amazing that when students enter college, especially as Black and brown students, most of them, according to the statistics, are not able to graduate. And it's all because of behavioral issues and challenges that they're having, whether they are well adapted to the laws of society, but not adapted to the social society when they get to college. Because, hey, it's wilding out time now. So the behavioral patterns are not necessarily for us to just go into employment. It will get you to the place where you can possibly gain employment, because many of our jailhouses and prisons are filled with Black men who fail to have quality behavior lifestyles, and so they will never have to worry about getting a job. So I think that's something I could talk on and on about. That y'all know how I feel. But Mr. Davis, come just give us your last words. We know you have something else to share.
Well, Bishop, you really summarizing all of what we're saying. I would say the future started yesterday and we're late. And we have to, I like how you said going down to the second and third and fourth grade level and identifying the gifts of our young people and then moving them into the area so they can develop their gifts. In other words, we need to have coaches, and Dr. D is a great coach. We have to bring coaches around our young people, and we need to bring them around our adults too, because some of them may be 40, 50, 60 years old, but really they still kids still. So we got to start to blend that. The second point I'd say, we can have as many degrees as a thermostat and still be blind to what the work environment really is all about. And then finally, our third point, I can't say it enough, the church is going to have to be is our answer. And when we are hanging on by a thread, we got to make sure it's the hem of Jesus' garment that we're hanging on to.
Mr. Stevens, please give us your last thoughts as we wrap this up. We're grateful and glad that you are a part of this on Facebook. I see some of our Facebook family. If you have any questions, please shoot them to us, send them to our email. We want to be able to help beyond this. We're going to come back in early December. Again, we're going to we want to whet your appetite because this goes far beyond. I know as a pastor, church is not the same, and churches are struggling. The economics of the church are in trouble. And the reason why the economics of the church is in trouble is basically because of employment challenges and behavioral challenges. And so what we're talking about is right in every family's wheelhouse. We are in, and I know sometimes you don't want us in your bedroom, but we are in your bedrooms right now. We've been walked into the door, and we enjoy the ambiance of your home and the beautification of it, and we enjoyed the sweet and nice smell of the desserts and the great soul food that you were cooking. But when we stepped into your bedroom, it got a little more chaotic. And I know we're in your bedroom and you want to reject us, but this is where the rubber meets the road, people. We need to reevaluate and reset, because that's the greatest ministry. The re is the greatest ministry that the church has. R-E. It needs to redo, start over again. The greatest ministry that the church has is the ministry of reconciliation. It's the greatest ministry that the church has, to bring people back to God. And so I want you to make sure that you give us an opportunity to help your young folk that are in your home, that are headed down a pathway that's seemingly good, but yet they can trip, dip, or slip at any particular time. We want to be able to help them understand that they can have a forward lifestyle, a very successful lifestyle. They may not become rich or wealthy. They're probably not going to the NBA. They're probably not going to the NFL. Some people are. Some people are going to the NFL. Some people are going to the NBA. Some people are going to the MLB, Major League Baseball, and other potential pro sports, but even entertainment. But the majority of us are not going. So we're going to have better workplace, better educational place behavioral patterns in our lives. So workplace is very important, but many of our students are not even getting to workplace. They're going to work for the prison system. So at this time, Mr. Stevens, please give us the last words, or we're going to let you go tonight.
And listening to Dr. Defoe, I can understand why it's so important, because the American education system, we know, was built for an economy and a society that no longer exists. That's the bottom line. No longer are the 3 R's, important, which is reading, writing, and arithmetic. There's simply not enough, for students today to compete in a global economy and our society. So students must be proficient in communicators. They must be good creators. They must be critical thinkers, and they must be good collaborators in order to survive in this new global society that's coming.
Well, I want to say again, thank you all. I know we're in different time zones, and I know it's late for later for some of you, 3-hour time zones, 1-2-hour time zones, but we're so honored that Mr. Carlton Stevens, Mr. Mitchell Davis Jr., and of course, Dr. Anita Davis Defoe have taken time to join us tonight. And I really thank God for Minister Amber Sanders, Amber Janae Sanders. Thank you so much for being at the helm of our social media technology. We are so appreciative of you that have joined us live on Facebook. I see one of our administrative bishops have joined us from New Jersey. He actually runs the state of New Jersey for the Church of God, and we're glad to see him on. And there are others that have joined us. We really appreciate all of you. We want to take this to the next level. We're coming back next month, and we're going to give you a little more. We're going to put some meat on these bones. I know we talked about some of the challenges, we've shared some of the solutions, but we want to come back. And next month, so you stay tuned for coming soon. Stay tuned for coming soon. We're coming back to help you in a more dynamic way to reset. Now that you understand that it's for everybody. It's for all age groups. And once we grasp hold to that mindset, we can really help one another, because no one is coming to save us. Well, the Savior has already come, and we love him and we appreciate him. And so let me thank you again. Also, let me just share with you, the RLF family, we have 5:30 a.m. prayer every morning, 5:30 a.m. You can join us. Also, tomorrow at 6:30, my wife is going to host a Let's Talk About It, Victory in the Truth. She's going to have Reverend Nicole Adderley with her, and it's going to be a wonderful time. My wife is just so excited about what tomorrow holds. And also, my son, he now works in the education system as a school teacher, but he's also a gospel artist. And tomorrow he has a special service. It's private. It's only to invited guests, but he's going to share some of his music, his release tomorrow. And I'm excited. So I want you to join him if you are invited. And if you just want to come and hang out with Pastor, we're going to be having some good chicken and some conch fritters and some nice little sweet treats. We're going to hang out up at 209 Southwest 5th Avenue in Delray Beach, Florida, for about an hour and a half tomorrow from about 7 to 8:30. So you're welcome to join us. But please, if you don't have the time to join us, join my wife on Facebook Live tomorrow at 6:30 for about 30, 45 minutes. Let's talk about it with her chat, and we will look forward to you joining us. So thank you all so very, very much for your time. We're coming back real soon. Again, Dr. D, Mr. Davis Jr., Mr. Carlton Stevens, and of course, Minister Amber, we so appreciate you for your goodness. To all of you that have joined us on Facebook, appreciate you so very, very much. May God's best always be yours. Peace and blessings. Love you all.